Hey guys, it's Richard from Grafting Fruits. Today I'm going to be showing you guys a grafting method called the L-Graft. And I'll be showing you guys why it's called the L-Graft as soon as we get started. But to start your L-Graft cutting, you're going to want to have all of the right materials. And you know, when I do grafting, I try to be as sterile as I can. I clean a lot of my stuff with alcohol or even use stuff that's already sterile. So that way I won't contaminate the dragon fruit cuttings the minute I cut it. So the L-Cut Graft. This one is a very interesting and cool one to do. And if you guys have been trying and practicing my other grafting method, this one will be a new one that you guys can add into your belt and then hopefully do some cool grafts with it. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started and show you guys the steps on how to do the L-Graft today, okay guys? So the grafting that I'm gonna be doing today is called San Lorenzo. This cutting was actually just given to me yesterday by my friend George. And he gave me a pretty big piece, so it's pretty cool that he did that so I can use the extra pieces to graft. And I thought, like, what a perfect way to show you guys the L-Graft that I'm going to be doing today by using San Lorenzo. Here I have a rootstock, and it's just an unknown Vietnam white rootstock that I like to use just because it's a very vigorous grower. It does good in our climate, and I tend to always use this variety for grafting just because I like how the camming layer is thick, the growth is very vigor, so it's one of my favorites. And for rootstock, you guys probably asking like, what's a good rootstock to use? You guys can use any type of rootstocks that you guys know that grows very well in your climate. So an example, let's say you have a variety called Fizzle Graffiti, and in your area, that one does the best, grows very fast, produces lots of fruits. I would totally use that one for a rootstock if it works very well in your climate. So depending where you're at, pay attention to what kind of variety grows very well in your area and use that as rootstocks, and you guys will see the growth pattern just like how you would see it in with the regular kind of cutting. So once you use it to graft, it will take on all of that vigor growth and explode. So that's one way to choose a rootstock. For me, I like to use Vietnam white, so I'm gonna go ahead and use that one today for our video, okay? First thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a look at my cutting here. This is the Vietnam white rootstock. So the L-Graft, essentially I'm gonna be having to cut a L shape. That's why it's called the L-Graft at the cambium layer, so that way I can expose it. And I'm gonna do the same with this, but instead of doing an L-Graft, I'm gonna take a center cut and put it on, tape it up, bag it, and then we're done. So further to do, let's go ahead and get started. So what I like to do first is, if you guys have a cutting that isn't already cut flat, I recommend you guys do that. So use a double-sided shear and cut that right here and get that to be as flat as possible and to show the cambium layer. So this is the cambium core. This is where we're going to be doing the grafting. So it's important that you kind of do a cross-section cut and expose that so we can do the cut a lot easier. Okay? So now that we have all of our supplies, let's go. I have this grafting knife here that I like to use. It's very sharp, and I'm going to be using some alcohol paper to wipe off anything that's contaminated. I like to use 70% because that's the percentage that actually kills the bacteria. I hear from other people that if you use anything higher than 70%, it doesn't sit long enough for it to kill the bacteria. So you don't want it to evaporate too long. So give it a good rub. Because remember, you're cutting inside of the dragon fruit, so you know the cells in there are sensitive, and if you contaminate it, it can spread very quick. So make sure you are very clean, so when you do your grafts, they're more likely to be successful, because a lot of times when people bag it, the rot starts to build and that becomes no good. All right, so the moment we've been waiting for. So what I'm going to be doing now is I'm going to be creating that L cut that I just talked about. So what I'm gonna do now is take my knife here. I'm gonna try to get as little as I can from the cambium layer, so when I do attach it on there, there's gonna be enough cambium for me to put it on. So let me show you guys this way, so that way you guys can see what I'm doing after. So I'm gonna go right here. So I'm gonna make an indentation just to show you guys where I'm gonna be cutting. So about that much. I'm only cutting about 1/3 of the cambium layer, just in case if I mess up, I can just continue to go back and cut more if I need to. But for now, I'm gonna go where it is right here. Okay, so this is where you gotta be very careful because the cambium layer is pretty strong. It's woody, so you gotta cut and try not to cut your finger. Okay, I kind of just go back and forth just like this. And I think this is far enough. If I need to go any deeper, I will cut some more, but let's go ahead and take this out. So right about here is where I'm gonna need to chop this part off. So I'm gonna go right in, try not to snap it. So I heard the little crack there, that's good. So I know I can open that, and there it is. That is the cambium core right there that we're trying to match. That's what we're gonna be cutting to graft on there. So once you have this part off, you don't need it no more. You can either take this to graft onto something else, but because we're using this as a rootstock, we're not gonna repropagate this or regraft that. So I'm just gonna clean my knife really quick. And we want to work quickly because things are gonna start drying. So you're gonna start seeing me kind of speed up the process here. So we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna cut it into an L, just like how we did here. And instead of making an L, we're gonna get another piece that looks like this and attach it there so we can get a graft. So the goal here is to get the center core just like how I did that. So I can't cut here, I don't see what I'm doing. So I'm gonna go ahead, just do a straight cut down. Just like that. And now it kind of shows me the cambium layer right there, right? So it's a little too thin for me. And if you want it to be easier, you can continue to cut down some more and you'll see that it starts to get thicker. So now you guys see that cambium? It's way thicker. It's gonna be a lot easier to cut. So now we're gonna go ahead and do that. So what I'm gonna do now next is I'm gonna cut this in half like this. Just so then it's gonna make it easier for me to cut. You're gonna remove all the sides. These are the only, you're gonna need some thorns because that's where the new shoots are gonna grow out, okay? So now that I have that cut off, I'm gonna put this here so then I have something sterile to cut. I'm gonna go ahead now and cut it right here, okay? So just like the other one, you only have about 1/3. You want a lot of the cambium still, so when you connect it, it still can match. So I'm gonna go ahead, oh, I feel it, go straight down. Take a look. So the cambium layer is right there. I haven't cut all the way through yet. This sometimes happens, you guys. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna take a finer knife that's a lot sharper. My scalpel here, it's already sterile, so I don't need to do any cleaning to it. I'm gonna go ahead and just take it out. And now we're gonna continue to try to get that cambium layer out. So what I'm gonna do now is just cut very slightly, just like this, and try to get another layer off. Until I see the cambium layer, then I know it's good. Okay, so are we there yet? No, we are not. So let's just keep cutting. I'm starting to see it slowly. So what you can do is, I do see it here, so I'm nowhere close to it. So I'm just gonna go ahead and cut where I think it is. Help me here. And there it is. So the cambium, you guys can see it, it's starting to pop out. I'm just gonna go ahead and clean it up a little bit more. Now that I see it, I can confidently try to follow it. And there we have it. So that's what we need right there, you guys. This cambium right here. So once we have that, I'm gonna clean this up. This side here, I don't need. This is so then when I put it on, it's gonna be a lot easier for me to tape. Okay, so it looks good to me. Maybe a little bit more. Just like that. Okay, so now we have San Lorenzo. It's ready to be grafted. We have our camulator. So this has been sitting out for a while. We don't want to sit too long. Let's go ahead and put it on. So it looks like I need about this much more. So I'm gonna cut a little bit more, just so then I can get all of it to be grafted on and nothing is gonna be hanging in to dry. So I went in, took about that much. Gonna go ahead and go in. I hear the crunch. Slowly, slowly, okay. It just cut. Now we have more. So I'm just gonna clean it up. It's kind of look edgy here to me. Perfect. Now we have our San Lorenzo piece. So the goal is to match this light green with this light green right here, just like this. Bam. And once you have it on there and you're confident and you know that it's gonna be sticking very well, I have paper tape here. So this is tape that you guys always see me have. We're gonna go ahead and secure these on very tight. So I'm gonna start with the middle so I get a very good tight lock right there. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the tape on first. Hold it just like this. So again, we're gonna be trying to capture the cambium layers together. So go ahead and just put it on. You see those two? So I kind of just go like this at first, slowly match in, and bam, looks good to me. So the first tape isn't gonna be too tight, it's just to align everything, just like that. Okay, so the goal is, you guys see there are still gaps in there. We don't want any gaps. So the goal is to try to get this to be so tight that it just closes everything together like this, okay? So I'm gonna continue to get tape and just keep on doing that until I can get it to be very tight. I'm just gonna re-tape this to make it tighter. So what I like to do is hold it in like this, squeeze it, and then tape. Hold it, squeeze it, and then tape. So it's closing our gap. Our gap is starting to close. Cambium layers are matching. So let's just get the top here. I'm gonna squeeze in. Make sure you're still matching everything. Squeeze and tape. Okay, so let me show you guys this side. There is no longer any air gap. The cambium layers are now tight with each other. And if you guys feel like it's still too loose, you can continue to keep on adding tape until you confidently think that it's very tight. So I'm just gonna do that one more time. Go here, squeeze it in as much as you can. Tape and tape. Okay, so if you guys look on top, now the two cambium layers are matching each other. You want those center core to be very tight with each other, so once they start to heal, nothing dries up and cause any gaps, the cells would reconnect, and then you're gonna start getting new growth from these, okay? The last thing to do is, if you're okay, you guys see no more gaps, it's taped very tight, now it's time to bag it. So what I'm gonna do, take this bag. I like to rip this off because it makes it really hard for me to tie. But we're gonna go ahead, tie it now. Right over. Just like that. I like to use some garden tape because it's easy to use. Give it a good tie. So when you are tying this, make sure there is no moisture in the bag. You want it to be a dry bag. If there's any moisture on it, open it to let it dry and then re-put it back on. If there is moisture in this, it starts to cause bacterial growth. The humidity and moisture in there kind of starts to make it easier for bacteria to grow, so that's not a good thing. So if you guys see it like this, there's no moisture, no condensation, then it's good. But if you see condensation in there, open it, let the air out, and then bag it right on, okay? So we're gonna leave this bag on for about 5 to 10 days. I'm just gonna be watching this. So about, usually for me, 5 to 10 days with the bags on. Usually for me, it's like the 7th day where I'll take it off. I just check to make sure everything's looking good, it's dry, they callus together, then I'll remove the bag. And you want this to be in complete shade for 15 days. So no sun at all. So after this graft that you've done, you bagged it, leave it in complete shade for 15 days. After 15 days, you can slowly acclimate it back to the sun. Because you've removed it from the sun, it might get a little burnt when you take it right back out. So put it in the area where it gets, you know, like maybe the morning sun, and then later in the afternoon it gets shade. And after 15 days later of that, you can put it in complete sun and then it can slowly start to take all of that sun and new growth will start to grow, okay? So bag on for about 5 to 10 days. You can do right in the middle. I do about 7 days. Incomplete shade for about 15 days, and after 15 days acclimated back to the sun, and then go ahead and bring it out to full sun, and you guys are good to go, okay? So if you guys did everything correctly, like I said, you let it rest for, or with the bag on for 5 to 10 days, let it heal for another 15 days in the shade, this is the result you guys are gonna get. So here is an L graft that I did that is successful. And the reason why it's called L graft is because look at this here. It kind of goes down just like an L. So if I turn it this way, it'll look like more of an L. So I did an Asunta 5 graft on this one. And I even left a gap right here just to show you guys that it doesn't matter as long as you get the 2 cambium layers to match up. Even with this gap here, it'll heal over and still grow a new growth. And this is the new growth from the Asunta 5 that I grafted on here. I also left these growth here because I wanted to show you guys what I do with them, and it's totally up to you. A lot of the times people ask me, can I have 2 varieties on one rootstock? And this is one way to do it. So now this rootstock of mine, I have Asunta 5 growing right here. So this is one variety. And this is the main rootstock of a variety called Alice Snow White. So this is actually Alice Snow White varieties growing right here. So depending on you, if you want 2 varieties of dragon fruit on one rootstock, you can leave them and let these both grow to the very top of your trellis, and then they will flower 2 different fruits. But if you only want this one to grow, you can go ahead and just break them right off, just like that. And then only the growth from Asunta 5 will start to grow. So any new growth that comes out of the rootstock, remove it, you guys, so then all of the energy can be focused onto Asunta 5, and then only the Asunta 5 will grow from this rootstock. So when you're grafting, it doesn't change the genetics or the flavor or anything from the variety that you graft on. When you graft it, all it does is it's using its rootstock to help it grow the variety that it already is. So no mutation is going to happen, but if you do want another variety, you just let the ones that are growing off from the original rootstock, then you have 2. But other than that, if you just want all the power, all the growth to grow into one, then you just leave it in here, and then you have the grafted part grow very quickly. So that's what you do. And here's another one that I did where I did not leave the gap, and I got the same result. So this is another Asunta 5 that I grafted, L graft. But look at how huge this growth has been growing, and it's still growing. Here's another new shoot that's gonna grow very tall soon. And I used the Vietnam white rootstock again. So yeah, that's 2 examples of a successful L graft that I did, just to show you guys that once you do it, it will be successful if you do it how I taught you guys, okay? So that's it. I hope you guys found this grafting tutorial helpful, and I hope you guys attempted yourself with all of the other graftings that I have. If you thought it was helpful and you guys want to attempt this, go ahead and hit the like button for me. If you guys have any questions about the grafting that I just did today, put it in the comments below and I'll get back to you guys as soon as I can. And if you guys want to see more grafting and dragon fruit videos of mine, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so that way you guys won't miss a single thing. Have a wonderful day now. Bye guys.